Good morning. It's Saturday, and I'm back out at the truck. I've got a couple of things on my list today, one of which is going to be painting. Yesterday I picked up I actually had a gray that was color matched to some of the interior parts of the truck. So I'm going to spray the heater box, and I'm going to spray hopefully the door cards on the Travelall. We'll see how that goes. Some of the door cards actually don't look too bad. I'll show you those in a minute. So I'm going to do that. I might actually weld on some tabs to put on the West Coast mirrors, and I think I'll probably clean up the passenger door, and then I'm going to see about chasing down some electrical problems, see if I can get the turn signals to work again. So no small order, but let's get at it and see what we can do. So these are door panels I got from a really nice guy up in Massachusetts named Ray. He had seen on one of the forums that I had this truck and said, hey, I've got a bunch of parts here, come and get them. So I drove up and I got them, and he set these door cards in, these door panels in with that bunch of stuff. It was a really great haul full of stuff. I'm really indebted to him. This is how they came to me, and you can see this looks really bad. Like, I have no idea what this stuff is. But I know that I wanted to use these because I've got a set that came with the truck, but my front door cards were cut for speakers, which really sucked. So he sent these down. These actually were set up for handles, which isn't a bad thing. I'd like to put handles in mine at some point. But they're covered in gunk. Just on a whim last night, I used some Easy Off oven cleaner on these and was absolutely amazed at how much of this garbage came off with that oven cleaner. These look like different pieces, basically. There's rust around the edges, and I'm gonna have to sandblast some of the stuff. I picked up some media yesterday, but if I can start from this base and not this base, I'm super happy, because I was thinking I was gonna have to sandblast the whole thing. So I'm gonna set these up to clean right now while I do some other stuff, and I'll hose them off, and then we'll see what sort of shape they're in. And then just to recap, this is my heater box. I spent some time welding some new metal in on the side and cleaned it up. This area here is new metal, and I primed it and I cleaned it up. It's been sitting in my garage for a while. I really want to get it reinstalled, so it's just been waiting on paint. And I've got that paint, so I'm going to hopefully shoot that today. That's one of the goals. This is the panel. The paint I've got isn't this dark. It's actually a little bit lighter. It's the color of the door cards. I'm not going to sweat it too much. I just want this stuff to sort of match and at least look halfway decent. So, and getting a pint of this stuff painted or mixed up would be exorbitantly expensive. So I'm going to go with what I can get here. We're going to paint it and we'll see what it looks like. While I'm waiting for some stuff to dry, I've cleaned up the door and I've welded in 2 bolts into the back side of the door. I'm just basically cleaning those up now. I've just put a tap on them to clean the threads up. Test fitting the mirror itself, which goes just like this. It's going to hang on there like that. So I'll cut a bunch of these bolts down so they're not sticking out so far. Tap them again, clean them up, and get them ready. And then I've just got to basically run the bolts through the bottom here of the door. I've got a piece of tape here to make sure I don't mess up the beautiful paint job. But that would be one window basically put in place, or excuse me, one mirror put in place. Then I'll have to adjust it for look and everything, but it's turned out pretty good so far. So I'll probably do the other side after lunch, and it's looking right now like it wants to rain. It's like just barely spitting, so I've got to figure out if I'm going to back the truck up into the garage or what I'm going to do here to keep things dry. I've got some stuff I can do in the garage in the meantime. At about 1 o'clock, here's where the inner door panels stand. I've basically just taken a wire wheel and wire wheeled all of the rust off of these things. I was going to sandblast them, but that's going to be too long, too messy, too much of a hassle, I think. So they are shot with I hit them with the wire brush, clean them all up, and then I just clean them off with some vinegar. Looks like the vinegar is having an issue with these two. I might have to wash that off and try something else. but they cleaned up pretty well. The only bummer is that this one panel, the bottom, caught the wire wheel. This is the worst out of all of them. It's got a little bit of rust on the bottom here. I'm going to fix it. I'm just going to bend this back down and use it for now, but I do have a spare from the actual truck that I can use. So we'll have to see. I might even shoot that one while I'm at it. But that's where these all stand right now. So they're all looking like they're in pretty good shape. I can't tell what the weather's doing today, so I may have to wait till tomorrow before I can actually spray these. We'll have to see. But I'm feeling pretty good about these. This is where the mirror stands. I've just got it held in here with a lock washer right now, but if I pull this off, both of the screws are in place, and I've done a whole bunch of grinding on the back side of these. I'm going to put some seam sealer on this and clean this whole thing up because it looks like garbage right now. But it's hanging on here really well. I'm really happy with this. And I'm just using what was already here, which is important. I didn't want to have to go and weld anything on here. This is aluminum in any case. So what I'm going to do next is cut these bolts down. I'll retap them and clean them up and get them ready for get everything ready for painting. It is getting dark, so I've got to kick off for the night, but this is where we stand on the mirrors. I've got these two welded in, just put some seam sealer on them and cleaned them up. The two holes down here are in. They're just in for the time being. I'm going to try to find some rubber to put behind this and this. I just haven't found it yet. I like to get something that's like sticky that I can put back there so it's not, marring my beautiful paint. And then the other thing I did was weld in the holes on this door. So the holes here, there were like 3 here and there were 2 down here. If you've been following along, you might remember I did this a couple of weeks ago on the driver's door. Welded those in and cleaned them up and put some filler on them. These 2 screws are welded in. They're ground back on the backs, and I put seam seal around those, so that's just sort of basically sitting in place right now. And then the hole here, I just have to pop the other hole out through there, and this thing can get mounted. So that's in place as well. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Sunday morning, and I am out prepping a bunch of panels and stuff for paint. I'm going to put a little bit of time in today on painting. I'll probably have to hang it up and do some other stuff, but what I want to do is get I want to get all 4 door panels shot, and I want to get my heater box and the cover shot. So I basically just buffed this down with really fine grit paper. I hit it all with some acetone to clean off any oil or anything, because this has been sitting for a couple of weeks. Just hit this with acetone. I'm going to do the same with the other panels. Just keep my gloves on and prep these to shoot. It's a pretty decent day. What I'm going to do as soon as I shoot these is set them up on hooks and put them on hooks in the ghetto garage here, so they have a lot of time to dry and flash and everything, and we'll just we'll knock them out and see how we do. So this is spraying out the base coat. This base coat went on super well, super easy. It was a little thin, I found, and that was after stirring it for a while. So I just basically went over all the parts. I would let them flash, and then I would hit them again while I had the paint in the gun, and that seemed to go pretty well. I got really even color on it, really even coverage on it. There was no blobbing or runs or anything like that. It went on really well. I think I've got this gun dialed in pretty well too, so I'm happy about that. Everything flashed very quickly, dried out really fast. You can see here I'm just checking over the heater box. I didn't have to wait around for hours for it. It hardened and flashed really fast. And overall, I'm really pleased with the way, both with the way these things turned out in terms of the coverage and the color. I think the color turned out really, really good, and I'm excited to see this with the seats and everything else back in the truck. I just shot the door cards, all 4 door cards, and the heater box with this gray paint. I had this matched at a Sherwin-Williams near me. It's a single stage, and it needs well, actually I don't know if it's a single stage. It is a single coat that needs a clear over top of it. So I'm going to see if I can find like a dull clear coat. The pricing difference was huge on this in relation to a single stage. This was like 60 bucks for a quart. The single stage that they quoted me was something like $260 or something crazy like that. Went on really well. It's a little light, or it's a little thin, I would say. So I had to shoot the doors a couple of times to get decent coverage, but I'm pretty happy with the results. I think it looks pretty good. If there's any lesson that I've learned, it's that with something this thin, I've really got to go over the metal a lot more in terms of sanding it to get it down even cleaner than it was. But I think overall it looks good. I'm pretty happy with the coverage. I'm pretty happy with the way that all turned out. So I'm going to let this sit and dry for the next couple of hours. It feels, yeah, I mean, that's already flashed and it's already dry. So it dried really nice and fast. But I'm going to let it sit and cure and clean up. And then I'll maybe do a quick test fit later on this evening. We'll see how things go. But I'm pretty happy with this. Here's one thing I wanted to show you really quick. This is the color that I just shot. I had this blocking out the port on the heater box. This is the original door card from the 63. And then you can see here, this is sort of a gray color. This is actually lighter than this color, which is the color that was behind the door escutcheon, which basically gets colored up. So it doesn't see any sunlight pretty much at any point. I had them matched to this color. And you can see, if I put these two up next to each other, I'm in the direct sunlight, hopefully you can see that. I think this does a pretty good job of matching that. You go over top of it here like that without getting in the way. I think it worked out pretty well. It looks pretty close. This might have a little bit more maybe green to it, or a little bit blue, but I think that isn't too bad. So I'm pretty excited to see what these things look like when they actually get put in the truck. I just put two of the panels on the doors. This is what the passenger rear door looks like. I'm pretty psyched with that. This looks good. It feels good. It's a lot better than it was. These panels look great. I'm pretty happy with this. It certainly makes the inside of the truck look a hell of a lot better. So I'm going to say that's a win. Here's the other side of the door with the mirror attached. I've just got it sort of stuck in place right now. Temporary paint up here. I'll fix that later. Temporary bolts. I'm going to basically cut these down and cap them off with round cap screws or cap nuts. And I've got bolts in here. They're not attached to the backs because I don't have them yet, because I have fancy, beautiful door cards inside. So I'm going to pull this little lock barrel out of this truck. This weather stripping is going to come out eventually, but right now I'm just going to pull the lock barrel out and get some new lock barrels made. Or actually, I'm going to make them. I've got some on order, and I'm going to use the ones that came in the green truck and disassemble those and put locks in this thing so it'll lock up for me. So right now, all I'm doing is pulling this weather stripping away. You get this clip, pull the clip out, and theoretically this lock barrel should pull right out. Clip looks like it's in good shape, so I'll clean that up. And these lock barrels look like they're in good shape, so yeah, looks good. All right, so I'm going to clean up. I will clean up this area around the lock itself. I'll sand all that down and clean it up and then repaint it and get it ready. What I'm doing here is cutting down some thin pieces of rubber gaskets and drilling some holes in them. This is going to wind up going in between the mount points on the West Coast mirrors and the actual body itself. My paint job is absolute hot garbage, but I figure a little bit of protection can't hurt anything. So I spent a little bit of extra time doing that. Here's the mirror in place. I've now got lock washers in here, and there's a piece of rubber between the actual mount and the paint itself for whatever good that's going to do. But these are firmly in place and should be in good shape. So I've got a solid mirror on the driver's side. I've got to mount the one on the passenger side. I'm waiting for some paint to dry. That'll happen later today. And then I've got to fix the actual mirror itself. I'll show you what's broken on that in a bit. Lock barrels are out, and this is a really good example of the paint job that's on this truck. You can see here there's red, there's primer, there's red, there's really thick white, there's primer, there's red, and then there's bare metal. This thing has a ton of paint on it, so every time I have to take paint off of this thing, I'm fighting all of these layers. And that's the whole truck. That was the roof, that's all of these, you know, pretty much everywhere. That's what it looks like. So anyway, this is sanded down. I'm going to hit it with some primer, clean it up, and get it ready for when the new lock is ready. And so this is spraying the clear coat. This clear coat went on really easy. It's Duplicolor matte. I got it off of Amazon. I got a really good price for it. Mixed it up really well and sprayed it on. Went on really smooth. Had no coverage problems at all. And actually what I wound up doing was I sprayed on, I would say, 3 light coats across all of the parts over the course of about 15 minutes. You know, I did 1 coat, I would go around, I would come back to the first parts and do them over again. So I think it went on really well. I think I might have put a little bit more than a pint in the gun to spray all these things, and used it all up, you know, this when I was spraying these things, and it went really easy. And these things look really good. I'm really happy with the finish. The original parts had a really dull finish to them, and with this matte color, or this matte clear coat, almost all the shine is gone. There was a shine to the base coat. Almost all of that is gone. They look very factory, I think. The color's really close, and the finish is really close now. So hopefully this clear coat will protect everything. So what I wound up doing was hanging these back inside the truck. You'll see in a couple of minutes. And I'm going to wait a couple of days before I start reassembling the heater box itself. All right, I've just shot all of the panels with a matte clear coat, and I think it went on really well. These things look really good. There isn't a ton of shine to them, so I think this turned out really nice. It's really sort of hard to see, but when these came from the truck, when I got them on the truck, they had a really, really dull finish to them, and that was really what I was going for here. And I think it turned out to be really successful. This is already flashed and is dried, so I'm going to let these cure. I'll let them sit overnight and really harden and settle, and then I'll put them back on the truck. Hopefully, you know, not for good, but just again to get them out of the way. But this thing is next up on the list. This has got a bunch of clear coat on it now, so I've got to build a gasket for it, and I've got to put all the guts back in it and get it set up to reinstall back in the truck. But this was really the key to this whole day, was getting this thing shot, because I'm basically waiting on this to put the entire dashboard back together. Really happy with the way this looks and the way it turned out. So yeah. Something I want to try to tackle today, if I can, is why my door will not shut properly, the barn door in the back of the truck. So when I'm looking at this, the left door shuts exactly as it should. That works fine. It locks, it seals, everything is good there. But when I close this door, so that's locked, and I try to close this one, there is resistance right here before I even get to the point where I'm making contact with the striker. The striker will hit, but it won't click in place because there's some sort of resistance there. So in looking at this thing, I'm looking at the hinges and thinking there can't be anything wrong with the hinges, but let me just look at them. If you notice, that hinge opens inside the truck. So basically the hinge comes into the truck as it's closed. If I close this door, the hinge basically folds back in on itself and looks like it goes under the door, and it feels like there's some resistance there, and I can sort of hear it as I'm trying to close it. So I'm wondering if there's something going on with this particular hinge that's preventing it from closing correctly. There is a recess in this thing, and there's a mark there you can see where it looks like, this part of the lip is hitting the inside of the door. I don't see that over here at all. So I wonder if there's something going on with this hinge. I don't know. Now, I do have an ace up my sleeve. This is a spare hinge from another truck that I got from my friend Ray in Massachusetts. Barn door truck, same thing. This is for this side. I have the other hinge. It's on my bench right now, soaking in PB Blaster, because when he took it out, he had to cut out part of the section inside the door here. I'm going to basically fool with that and see how that one closes when it closes. If it closes the same way as this, maybe it's something there, I don't know, but I am beginning to suspect this hinge is not working properly, and I've got to figure out why. And if that is in fact the case, is that what's going on? What I might actually do is unbolt these 4 bolts to have this thing open up all the way and see if this door will close properly. I think actually that's what I'm going to do next. So at this point, I spent roughly, I would say, half an hour getting the old bolts out of the hinge itself. 3 of the bolts came out with almost no problem at all. The 4th one, it was a Phillips head, it was on the bottom. The end of it had rusted, and so it took a lot of PB Blaster and a lot of time going in and back out and in and back out to get it to come out of the actual frame itself. Here's my other hinge. I just heated this thing up with some propane, and basically one of these just finger loosened. The other one I had to work out a little bit, so I'm just going to pull these off really quick, and then I can see what the action of this thing is based on what the other one looks like. Oh, get out of there. Doesn't want to leave. Well, I'll leave him there for now. So let's bring this over. I've got 3 of the 4 bolts here out. These 2 are good. This one's good. This bottom one was working up until it decided it wanted to stop. So I'm letting that rest for a minute, hit with some PB Blaster. But now I've got this other unit, and I can sort of see how this thing closes. So let me mock this up and see what happens when I try to close this thing. Thinking of how I can do this. So there are a couple things I notice. I've got this thing in the vise, and basically what it would look like is if this was the corner of the tailgate here, hinge comes out, this is the part that hooks up to the door. So the door is open, it would look like this. And what it should do, if it's like the other one, is it should close like that. Looking at the hinge, this is the identical hinge. There's no mechanical there's nothing to this, mechanically speaking, other than the release mechanism here. This is a release mechanism, which basically, if you trigger this, it allows you to open the door up even further. But that's independent of this hinge and this hinge. I mean, it's linked to a cam underneath here, which basically stops the door from opening any further than that. But it has nothing to do with this pin or this pin or this pin. So I can't figure out why this thing is basically wanting to curve in on itself. I'm slowly getting this bolt out underneath here. It's just taking time. I think it's probably rusted on the very end. So I'm just going a little bit at a time, taking a little bit of a break. I'm going to pull this thing off if I can and replace it with this one and see if I can figure out why this is doing what it's doing. I can't figure it out yet. So I was thinking what I would do is swap out this whole assembly for the spare assembly just to see if the linkage was changed at all or anything. But these two bolts down here don't want to come out. And the reason for that is after I pulled the cover off of this thing, look inside here, there is a whole bunch of rust down in that corner. And that is from this little gap in the weather stripping on the other side. There's water getting down in there because basically it travels down this channel and just goes straight down into the door. So I don't think I'm going to be able to get those bolts unfrozen. They're on there pretty good. I'll soak them, but I'm not holding out any hope. So I've got to make do with what I've got here. I loosened up that whole hinge set, pulled it out this way, tightened it back up, and I found that the door didn't close very well at all. So I think what I'll probably have to do is loosen that one, pull everything out, loosen the top set, pull that out, and see if that whole, like moving the entire door out a little bit, solves the linkage problem here. So that's my next step. I think I've got this thing sorted out. I've done two things. Moved the hinges out as far as they would go, up here and down there. So they're moved outside as far as I can get them. And I was hoping that that would solve for the angle of this thing, but it actually doesn't. So the other thing I did was I got my grinder out and I ground down the corner of this particular part of the hinge, because this is the thing that hits right there underneath, and this is the part that was stopping the door from closing. So I'm hoping that with this ground down, now if I close this door, that's closed up, that stays shut. Could be adjusted some more. I'll have to do some more finagling with it, but at least it closes. Before it wasn't closing at all. It was basically hanging open, and that was getting me kind of nervous. So feeling better about that. Next up, at some point, what I've got to do is I've got to pull. Yeah, I'm gonna have to pull the door handle off of here and see if I can get that third. See if we can get this lock out. The same way I got the other locks out. It's going to be different this time, but I'm going to try to get this lock out so I can key this lock to the locks that I'm getting for the doors. More info on that. I'm going to wait until I get those locks first, and then I'll worry about ordering more, because they were not cheap, actually. All right, what's up next? Let's just spray some rust converter down here before I close these back up. Actually, I shouldn't, because this is now covered in PB Blaster, so I'm just going to let that dry, and then I'll hit it later. All of the caps are here. That's all good. I do have to source another couple of these bolts. You can see the Phillips on that is just completely destroyed, so I've got to find a bunch more of these bolts. Sunday evening, it's about 5 o'clock. I'm finishing up for the day because I'm pretty tired. Where we stand is the door cards are shot with clear coat. The back ones are on the doors, and I think they look pretty good. They're going to stay on here just to be out of the way. The fronts are off of the truck because I'm going to be actually putting hopefully new lock barrels in at some point in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to have to get in and out of the doors, no matter what I do. I spent some time under the dash trying to work some stuff out. Didn't make a whole ton of progress. I'm right now trying to figure out what's going on with the wiper motor. Because that'll be the last thing I take care of under the dash before I start buttoning the whole dash up. And what I did was I put a 12-volt tester on that to test it and didn't get anything out of it. But I know I'm not doing it right, but I know I'm very tired, so that's probably why I'm just not thinking it through well enough. So I just want to back off of that and come at that maybe this coming week. We'll see. Still don't have the blinkers working. I'm not sure what's going on there. I did reroute the main wiring harness for the lights and everything up and over the column. So I've got a bunch of different wiring stuff I've got to figure out in the coming weeks. I think I'm going to wind up tracing a whole bunch of wires. Let's see, what else is going on? Lock areas are sanded down and cleaned up, so that should be good. The other big thing was getting the back door adjusted. So the back door now closes. Pretty happy about that. I'm going to get some silicone or something and fill this little crack in. I've got to go out and see if anybody is making these gaskets anymore. I kind of doubt it, so not sure what I'm going to do there. I do have 2 extra windows. I just don't have the gaskets, so we'll have to see what's happening there. But I'm pretty happy with the way the cards worked out. This looks really good. I think this door cleaned up really well, so that's pretty good. And then, yeah, I got the, like I said, I got the mirrors mounted. So kind of a semi-quiet day, but it's another one of those days when I got a lot done, but you wouldn't know it by looking at it. This is the wiper motor from the green truck. It did work when I tested it. Again, I'm tired today, so I don't know that I'm thinking as directly as I should be, but I did test this with the bench tester, didn't get it to work. I think I'll probably hit it with some easy off just while I'm out here right now and cleaning up, just to clean it up and get it, looking better. And then I've got to see on the one in the truck if the mounting setup is the same, and if it is, and if I test this thing as working and good, I'm just going to swap this one in place, and then I can start cleaning up the dashboard. So we'll get that done right now. So these are 2 lock sets that I got out of the green truck, and what I'm doing here is following some instructions that I found on the Binder Planet to basically pull the lock tumblers out of the cylinder itself, the section that actually mounts into the truck. There's a little clip under this part here, and at a certain point in this video I'll zoom in on a little bit more. There's a clip here that you lift up, and then you can push the entire assembly inside that barrel forward. And then you can see here it's come out of that outer ring, but now what it does is it gets basically hung up on the tumblers, and you can see here I'm trying to figure out in this sped up part how to get the tumblers down. Basically, you got to get them down so that the rest of the barrel will come out. So I think right here I've gotten the first one to sort of come out and pull forward, and there are 6 of them if I remember correctly. What happens is when you put the key inside, it the teeth and the key basically go in and they move the tumblers, and the tumblers go up or down, and they basically set down into the lock. I'm probably using the wrong terminology here. The lock tumbler, or the barrel itself, and that's what spins the lock. This was a brief detour. I was trying to figure out if I could go inside and move the tumblers, but now I went back outside. So here, I think I'm just beginning to get that first tumbler. Yeah, you can see the first tumbler is free here. And then I'm basically working on getting the next ones out. And what I found with this is if you get the first like 2 or 3 out, the rest of them come out pretty easily. It's just getting the first and second ones past that section there. You can see here, like the rest of it, it almost falls out once you've gotten the rest of them there. So here, the actual lock tumbler itself is free. You can see those teeth on the top. I'm sort of squinching them down. That is the part that gets rekeyed. So that'll do it for the week. A lot of good progress on the Travelall and painting. Some progress on the Scout. I've got a new mechanic I'm going to bring the Scout to in a week or two. He's full up right now, but he works on old cars. He's not afraid of them, so we're going to give him a try. He came recommended to me through a guy I met at Cars and Coffee down the street, so that's a good thing. The other thing I'm going to try to do is sell these two fenders I've got. I put these up on Marketplace last year before the repops were available for, it wasn't asking, I think it was like asking $150 a pop or something like that, because they're not perfect. Had a guy message me out of the blue. He wants to buy them. I just want them out of my garage. I've got two others. I don't need these. They're taking up space. So I just said, sure, come and get them. So hopefully I can meet up with him this week and get these out of there. But other than that, I will see you next week. Stay tuned for the merch plug at the end. Help me pay for this stuff. And I'll see you in a week or two. If you've made it this far in the video, you might be interested in some merch I've got for sale on threadless.com to keep this project going. I'll put a link down below in the description. Thanks for watching.